hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme.
Okay, hello, welcome to the podcast. I'm Jake. God, it's in the Bible. You know all the stuff. You're a stupid baby or whatever. That's Anders J. Lee. What's up?
Wham! Anders Lee here. Anders J. Lee here. Baby.
Nice. I bet that's what you sounded like as a baby. Let me hold young Anders and like, hello. I'm going to be on the radio someday.
My family's impressions of me as a toddler all have me doing a really deep voice, which doesn't seem to make sense, but I guess I had the vibe. Like sonically, I'm sure it wasn't deep, but it was in the attitude of the voice.
Maybe you went through puberty like backwards, kind of, or you had a really
honestly
deep voice as a baby, and then it got higher.
Honestly,
your balls
I didn't
were
have.
huge, but they got smaller.
I had a much deeper voice when I was like 14, and then my nasal personality made it higher several octaves. My father's very disappointed, but I don't know if there's any going back. I could just commit to this, but it was even lower than this, and I would have to really do this every day and try and. I mean, a lot of guys do that, you know.
I'm watching Mad Men. I've been watching it just in my free time for forever at this point. And something Don Draper for sure, because he's a fake person. Sorry if you've never seen season 1 of Mad Men. Spoiler, but they're all fake.
Double fake person. He's a double fictional character.
That's true. But right, exactly. So that's why it's such a brilliant show. A lot of the characters are like they're double fake. Like my favorite's Pete Campbell because his character, you can tell, is dropping his voice. Not the actor, the character. Like the character Pete Campbell is such an insecure little fucking wimp that he's like, he always talks like this and has that like transatlantic accent. And he's like, let's go have a glass of brandy in the boudoir or whatever. And you're like, but it's brilliant because it's not the actor. It's the character is double fake. He's like, he's playing an insecure guy. So that guy does that thing you're talking about. And like everyone does it a little, you know. It's like I don't know. Maybe here's a good mid 2010s article. Is Pete Campbell code switching? Are we shaming him for code switching when it's natural for his someone from his background? I don't know. But I don't know if I've ever told this story in the podcast, but I have a memory of a guy calling the house one time for my sister when I was a kid, and I picked it up, and he was like a guy. He was an older guy. And I remember I was trying to sound like more grown. So I was like, oh yeah, she's around. And then my voice never went back. I did that. And then it's just been low ever since. And I think it's weird. Like I'm like, am I doing that? Am I Pete Campbelling constantly? Or did that just break my old voice that moment? I'll never know. Anyways, I'm full of beans today. I know. Listen, I'm a moody person. It's a term from the 1920s or something that like it's from like Raymond Chandler type language, like old timey like radio noir language. Like I don't know where I picked it up, but every time I say it, people go, "What? Full of beans?" And I'm like, I don't know. I just got it from like The Simpsons or something when I was a kid. It means you're full of coffee, like you're full of energy.
Oh, I see. Okay. You do get energy from the protein that is in other beans.
I don't drink coffee, so I'm full of pinto beans because I like eating them. I'm not going to dwell too much on this, but I've just been thinking like I'm really excited about this episode, and I know that I'm like a moody person creatively, and like I have a hard time. That's why I'm a creative type. I don't like jobs. Like you have to be consistent. You have to be the same person all the time. I'm not even good at stand up a lot of the times for that reason. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm so tired. I don't want to do my podcast that I made for myself, and this is like an easy job Today, fuck you. I'm about to slam some podcast content into your goddamn ears, and you're all going to sign back up for the Patreon. It's going to be awesome. I'm so excited about the research done today. This is like, it's making me remember why I started this stupid fucking show and got into left podcasting and tried to combine thinking about things with jokes and stuff. Man, fuck. If you don't like this, you're wrong. I'm so amped. Am I selling it? Dawn, is this working? I don't know. It's gonna be good. It's about I went down a weird rabbit hole reading about a like a tech like company town type thing in Latin America. We're gonna get to that in a second, but first we're gonna have to circle around a couple relevant adjacent topics. First one is, did you see Saturday Night Live this weekend?
I did not. I missed SNL. I'm not. It's not appointment viewing for me anymore. Someone pointed out to me recently. Everyone thinks that SNL was only good when they were 14, and that's definitely the case. Yeah, for me it was lazy. When I had the deep voice, I was quoting Lazy Sunday. And when you age out of it, but I also just genuinely do think that era was very good. But yeah, I aged out of SNL watching.
Yeah, no, I feel you. It's so funny. It's funny, like being moderately successful in comedy, quote unquote. Don't fucking tweet at me if you think that's true or not true. But we know Sarah Squirm. She's like on the show. And when I was a kid, or when I was first starting comedy, honestly, when I was younger, if you'd have told me like I know one of my friends or something that's like somebody I know from comedy is on SNL, I'd be like, wow, I'd probably watch it every night, or not every night, I guess every Saturday, every week. And you'd think you'd be excited, and it's just a passing thought. Every once in a while I see her in like a reel and I'm like, she's funny. I don't know about the rest of the show. But I don't even catch it most of the time. And I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did catch a bunch of the reels from this weekend. And she had a really funny one where she was a raccoon, and she annoys Colin Jost, which is a lot of fun. She was a drunk raccoon. I was like doing like all the raccoons have like little creepy hands. She was doing a lot of that stuff. Brilliant physical comedian as well as regular comedian.
That's great. I will defend her too with the Amy Lou Wood impression. Do you remember that from the White Lotus series? They did a send up of it. I actually thought this was pretty funny. I see the sketches sometimes, and I thought a very funny send up of the White Lotus, but with Trumpified.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, but Amy Lou Wood, the actress who is in White Lotus, who is British and is in the show, is dating Walton Goggins. She was really upset about the portrayal of her as being like British and having bad teeth.
That's funny.
But it's as a whole. It's funny not because her teeth are bad. It's funny because people hurt because they were an object of discussion. Because when she was first on the show, like the first episode, there's a whole discourse on Twitter. Is like, you know what? I kind of like her teeth. Her teeth are, you notice her teeth. They're not bad teeth, but you notice them. They're big. They're part of her pretty smile. It like became a subject. So the joke was purely commenting on that. It wasn't making fun of her for being ugly. So she needs to grow a thicker hide, I think. She's a great actress and also a supporter of Palestine, apparently because her grandfather was a British soldier in Palestine during the Nakba. Little fun factoid.
Wow, damn. All right. Well, then I have nothing but nice things to say about her. Never mind. I was about to tell her to fuck off, but it's okay. It's all right to get your feelings hurt when a brilliant comedian lampoons you. That's what it's for. It happened to Don. What happened in Mad Men? It happened to the wife of an account that the guy from the Winky's Diner scene, that character actor who sees the troll behind the fucking dumpster in Mulholland Drive. That guy plays a comedian in Mad Men, and he insults an account's wife, and then he has to apologize.
Oh, right. The guy from Mulholland Drive, yeah.
Yeah, and he has to explain, like, look, the guy I am on stage and the guy I am in here, they have different jobs. One of them pays the bills. That's not even his voice. Okay, so Anyways, SNL, right? They did something really weird, which is they had Colin Jost like do a sketch, which he never does. Have you ever noticed that he's like, I think this is like an SNL thing, like the Weekend Update people are just kind of, they're never in anything else except for Weekend Update. I guess that makes sense because they have like a recurring sketch. But he played Pete Hegseth, and again, you know what? I'm gonna compliment the show. I hate when you notice yourself like falling in line with like the correct opinion to have, even as like a leftist, right? Even as like a fucking hip comedy person. I'm gonna go out and do a hot take. I think modern SNL is actually kind of good, and it's like everyone just fell into this thing where like we're trying to out left each other and be like, it's so bad because it's neoliberal or whatever. I don't think that's how like funny works personally. So my hot take, they kind of nailed it, and I fucking probably would hate Colin Jost if I ever met him, which I might someday. Who knows? I'm in comedy. He's a fucking Ivy League blue blood guy, right? But he played Pete Hegseth, and he he played him as like a loud, angry, drunk guy, pretty funny. And he's doing a press conference about the thing where they're going to invade Venezuela. Trump's trying to start this war with Venezuela, war quote unquote. They're just trying to fucking invade. And at the end of it, like, it's crazy. Colin Jost as Pete Hegseth, double impression thing we're talking about. He just rattles off a bunch of CIA statistics about the CIA overthrowing Guatemala and Chile and all these countries, like stuff we've been talking about on our shows and stuff for years. And it was really like, I was like, wow, like, this is one of those things where you go, man, they could just say it on TV and it doesn't change anything, you know? But it was really bizarre to watch because the whole time I was thinking about how Colin Jost, fun insider comedy fact, if you don't know, I know I've mentioned this before, he was college roommates with Pete Buttigieg. So I'm like, is this where he learned about all this stuff? You know, it's just hanging out with his college roommate who was like, you know, doing some of this stuff with McKinsey and shit like that. But it's also just so weird to see Colin Jost playing Pete Hegseth, because like, if I were to show you Colin Jost and Pete Hegseth and go, one of these people was roommates with Pete Buttigieg in college, who would you guess, right? It's weirder that it's a sketch comedian or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're all up there together, which is why you can't ever hand it to SNL, right? You can't ever give them they're good or whatever, because they are, you know, part of they're a appendage of the upper class, I guess, in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
So fuck you, Colin Jost, but that was pretty funny. I'll hand it to you. I don't know. I'm giving out a lot of compliments today.
I mean, my basic take with us is it's just really hard to do a show like that every week, and you're going to have a lot of clunkers. Probably most of them are going to be clunkers. I used to write one segment a week, and that was it. It's 1 to 2, and that was hard. I can't imagine having a whole fucking slot of sketches you have to write and act in a week, even with a lot of like talented people. I was about to say talented and well-paid people, but I've heard the pay isn't actually that great. It is for me, but you know, for TV,
proportionally, it's not good. Like, for the amount of money they're generating,
right? Yes, yeah. And I say this and I think I'm not I don't even think you need to adjust this for inflation. I am the lowest paid on-air television personality in the history of television. I think if you went back to the 50s, people would still be paid higher than $57,000 a year, which is what I started at RT America. But I also wasn't generating any money because it was all fucking check from the Kremlin.
Don Draper sees you. He's like, "Who's that deep-voiced child? Dock his pay. I don't like him. Send him back to the mill." God damn it, Pete. Yes. Okay. So anyway, this is all to get us to Latin America, because I keep teasing this and I really want to like put some work into this and really dig into it. But at some point we really got to talk about Venezuela, right? Because there's this looming fucking Iraq war level manufacture of consent and rollout for a war where they're going to try to invade Venezuela. And you know, the Trump administration is, I almost said the Bush administration. The Trump administration is very much running the Iraq war playbook, and it's it's pretty commonly understood at this point. I think I was watching speaking of shit like this, The Daily Show. They're talking about it, right? Jon Stewart's talking about it, and they've also, they're pretty good. You gotta hand it to them sometimes. I don't know why am I being so nice today? So
We're now giving the Jake Flores Award for achievements in the comedic arts to Stephen Colbert.
not Stephen Colbert. He's
I'm just adding him to the list.
No. You take him right off. I've been a Stephen Colbert hater for a long time. So yeah, Venezuela, right? And we're going to talk about it at some point leading up to it. But today, in order to get a little background, we're going to hop over a couple of countries up into the Central American part of Latin America to Honduras, which is not far away, right? Because Venezuela is up on the top. But anyways, we're going to talk about Honduras because some things are happening right now there. And let's start here, right? So I started off by going down this rabbit hole when I learned about this fucking weird libertarian like startup city that a bunch of venture capitalists started in Honduras. And I've heard about stuff like this before. Like there's one in like Saudi Arabia, like all these tech companies have invested all this fucked up shit into, which we should probably talk about again at some point. There's like, I don't know, just Dubai in general. There are things like this around the globe. But this is like a little different. I started learning about it, and it opened a whole world up, and we're going to go on a ride through the world that was opened up by reading about it. So let's talk about this thing called Prospera, which is technically a city in Honduras. It's on the island of Roatan. In 2017, a bunch of Delaware-based companies, or a Delaware-based company founded this city Prospera with investments from all the usual suspects, right? Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, Sam Altman, evil fucking tech freaks. We all know them at this point. And they referred to this as a, quote, startup city or a for-profit city. Sure, why not? But more often than not as a, quote unquote, charter city. This is the language they've sort of landed on, right? It's like a school or whatever. There are 5,000 economic zones where this is possible around the world, apparently. Just from the way the history of the world and trade and everything is like laid out at this point, there are these weird kind of like, international watersy sort of zones where certain like trade laws and tax laws and stuff don't apply. A lot of them are ports. A lot of them are like duty-free trade zones. There's stuff like this in like Hong Kong because of the nature of Hong Kong being, like a leftover thing from British colonization and then China, becoming China and stuff. I don't know the exact details of it, but you can imagine, right? There's a fishing village in China because China has markets and stuff. Stuff like this is possible in China because, they're complicated. They're on their way to communism. They're, socialism with Chinese characteristics. So they still have like fucking wealthy capitalists, all sorts of trade and commerce. There's a fishing village in China that became like a huge trading center because of this, because someone figured out at some point, you can exploit, like, cut all the fucking whatever tax and oversight out of doing some sort of economic gobbledygook in this place. So this has been a thing that these types of people, your Peter Thiels and Sam Altmans and stuff, have sort of been keeping their eye on for the last 10, 20 years or so, trying to figure out if there's a way that they can work their magic in it, right? So eventually they come up with this idea, charter cities. There's about 36 of them operating in the world as of recently, more sort of in development. But Prospera, I think, is like the flagship one. So it all started there. But right now, as we speak, there's a plan for this thing called East Solano, which is run by a bunch of real estate developers in the Bay Area. And they're just developing land on like ranch land outside of San Francisco to just like try to make they're just frustrated with San Francisco, I guess. And they're trying to make like an even less regulated place for them to just go and develop and make apartments and run around and, I don't know, do business at each other or whatever. Something to keep an eye on. It's really weird. There's something called a crypto state that they're trying to create in the Mediterranean. I didn't really look into. There's a place called the Republic of Liberland, and it's just 3 miles of floodplain between Croatia and Serbia.
You said Liberland or Liverland?
Liberland, right?
Liberland.
Okay. Yeah, Liverland would be cool if it was. That would be a cool name for like a bar, you know, because you get fucked up and getting cirrhosis or whatever. Liberland is like, so a lot of these projects are like libertarian, like Ayn Randy, freaky.
Yeah, which makes it funny that they chose that for the name because it ends at lib. So I mean, I guess it's liber, but they're probably gonna have a lot of people showing up being like, "Oh, so we're gonna watch SNL and drink some wine
live out?"
and,
yeah. I don't care. I'm celebrating Zoran in Liberland. I know it's complicated. Well, Liberland seems like the dumbest one of them because it's like 3 miles of swamp in Eastern Europe somewhere. So that's probably why it's called that. They have most of the names, we'll get to this later, but they become a little bit more like opaque and mysterious or obscure, because I think the old timey thing where you're like, it's called Fortuneville or whatever, is like they're trying to throw that in the past because everyone's played BioShock at this point, so like people kind of get their hackles up about it. But yeah, so that's basic concept. And there's another investor, this guy Balaji Srinivasan. Sorry.
You don't hear
no way I'm saying that.
Srinivasan. Is it with an AS or an ES?
It's Balaji, Balaji, and then Srinivisan, Srinivasan.
I think that's probably right. I mean, it's
probably right.
Srinivashan, but it seems like maybe a slightly different name.
As long as he doesn't sign up for an open mic I'm hosting, I'm in the clear, baby. He comes on stage scowling. It's not that hard. You watch Game of Thrones. So, this guy, he is an advisor in Patry Friedman's like fund that he uses to build startup cities. Patry Friedman's a grandson of Milton Friedman, right?
Yeah. And the son of what's his name, David Friedman, who is a similar, economist, but also really into LARPing.
Really?
Yeah, and not for like.
You're not saying that like figuratively. You mean like actual LARPing?
Like actual, yeah, like dead ass. He's into LARPing, and for being a Berber priest, as well as like random medieval stuff. Like he's really into medieval cooking, which is probably gonna kill you. Yeah, they make food based on like what demons it was gonna kill at that point. They didn't have access to anything that tasted good. They couldn't.
You should not go cook things. You shouldn't go backwards when it comes to cooking. Everything gets better as it goes forwards, right?
Yeah. That's what, like, when people talk about Scandinavian food, that's what we had access to. We don't. Nobody actually likes stinky fish and stuff. That's just what was in the region.
Yeah. So okay. So the son of Milton Friedman is just making a witch's potion somewhere and like chanting and shit.
Yes.
Cutting his hair across like a bowl cut. Fucking with these fucking rich people, it's like if he just did that, great, right? But it's in addition to all the other stuff, so now I hate him. This guy should be hanging out at a Ren fair somewhere. If things were liquidated correctly. That's insane. That's really weird. I love that for him though.
And I'm looking up. So apparently, sorry to the guy he's named after is Patry Pugliese, who was a friend of David Friedman, and his Wikipedia page is him in like a Civil War reenactor costume, but it's for a civil war in North Africa, apparently. Yeah, a regiment of Berber volunteers. So they're all in part of this weird community that's like fascist adjacent, like reenactors and LARPers.
This man goes to the doctor. He says, "Doctor, I'm so depressed. I don't know what to do with my life. I'm so sad." Doctor says, "You must see great economist Pugliacci." Oh, but doctor, I am Pugliacci. Okay, so anyways, fuck. I'm gonna get stuck thinking about this medievalist that I didn't know was in the Friedman family, but they're all freaks. It makes sense. So this guy Srinivasan, though, right? He's in Patrick Friedman's I can't remember what it's called. I'll get to the name of it later, but all these things have like insane super villainous sounding names. But he has a fund that he started to build these startup cities. And this guy Srinivasan, he wrote a book a few years ago called The Network State. He wrote a book a few years ago called The Network State, rather. And in it, he states that these cities that they're building with this startup thing, these cities would eventually compete with nation states and eventually, replace them, right? Just like pretty ominous sort of declaration to make, that he plans on making like a weird fucking forum internet thing into a city that then replaces like, Honduras or something like that. Just an actual place. Not that I love states, but this is like worse, right? He was inspired, by the way, he said, by the state of Israel. He said in his book, that country was started by a book. He tweeted this, referring to Theodore Herzl's 1896 manifesto, The Jewish State. He said of this, "You can found a tribe. What I'm really calling for is something like tech Zionism," right? When a community forms online and then gathers in a physical space to form a, quote, reverse diaspora. That's one of the most fucked up things I've ever heard anyone conjure from their mind. Have you been in like a group chat for too long, or like a fucking Facebook group or a forum? These are not communities, right? These do not bring out positive things in people. He wants these to be like the new like Israel's basically. He wants it to be based on, fucking I don't know, the Discord for the Joe Rogan podcast or whatever. So this is all happening, right? This guy's coming up with these ideas. This guy named Paul Romer, who is a chief economist of the World Bank and a Nobel Prize winner, he came up with all this stuff way back. We have to go back to 2009. In 2009, Paul Romer, this economist, gave a TED Talk. And in the TED Talk, he talked about this, like, he showed this picture of these kids in Africa that were studying, for school. They're doing their homework under street lights in the street. And what he argued is that the whatever country this was in, the electric company was being forced to sell its electricity, its power, for such a low price that it had no choice but to stop serving its constituents, its fucking customers at all. So it just wasn't charging people power. He says this is an outcome of regulation, of overregulation. So we need to let libertarian principles and free market shit play out, and it'll solve this problem. That way you won't have these kids studying under streetlights, right? Obviously, like, there's all sorts of shit that goes into why the fuck that happened. This is a TED Talk. It's fucking dumb, right?
Yeah.
He described his model of these charter cities with having a, quote, host city and a ruling country, which is like just to say it like that, pretty gross. He's saying the dynamic would cause the city to, quote unquote, prosper by bringing in capital and bringing in all these amenities and, money and stuff, and raising the GDP or whatever, and preventing people from leaving, because so many people in Latin America leave for, the United States. He said, well, you prevent people from leaving to other richer countries if you make the country you're in rich by, supposedly just doing laissez-faire free market economics in a private tech town and like building skyscrapers and stuff, right? Trickle down theory, I guess, at play here. Obviously, that would not happen, right? And it isn't happening. Otherwise, we would have heard about it by now. We would have all got, at one point going, "What if we moved to this cool place in Honduras called Prospera? Haven't you heard of it?" No. So let's talk about Honduras a little bit. Let's do some history. So Honduras had a left-wing president named Manuel Zelaya, Zelaya, and Zelaya was mysteriously couped a few presidential cycles back. And the official story that we're told is that he was trying to change the term limits in the Constitution and become a dictator, right? So
oldest trick in the book.
Yeah, and it has happened, but like, are we to believe that this person was doing that because there was a right-wing military coup that ousted him, and he happened to be a left-wing president, right? You are an idiot if you believe that. It's obviously fucking bullshit, right? So this benevolent, right-wing general cooed him, right? I'm sure, right? So let's look into it a little bit, though. So his opponent in the previous election, who he had defeated, was named, I can't believe he's named this. I don't know, maybe it's a very common name and I'm just not aware. Porfirio Lobo. So
that is a cool last name, but I like
but there's
name.
a guy who like ruined it,
Yeah.
It's an Adolf type situation.
Yeah.
Right. Porfirio Lobo. So Zelaya had defeated this guy in the previous election, right? And then he gets cooed, and all of a sudden the guy he defeated is installed as president, right? That's kind of weird. Seems a little sus. So Lobo is a big fan of Paul Romer, the TED Talk guy, who's going around trying to sell this idea of charter cities, talking about the power lines and shit. And the first thing he does when he becomes president is he meets with Paul Lobo about installing one of these newfangled charter cities, right? So they have to have a meeting, and they have to kind of work out all the nuts and bolts. And they have this meeting with this guy named Juan Orlando Hernandez. So Juan Orlando Hernandez is currently the head of Congress. Can't remember the exact title there, but he's like the fucking main whatever in Congress. He's going to be a big part of the Lobo presidency. And yeah, Juan Orlando Hernandez, fucking Porfirio Lobo, and Paul Romer all sit down. And as they're figuring out how to get this charter city installed, they realize that in order to do this, it would violate certain parts of the Constitution. So they have to amend the Constitution of Honduras. So they do that. Mind you, the entire justification for overthrowing Zelaya, the previous left-wing president, was that he was trying to amend the Constitution, which is apparently this horrible thing to do. The fucking first thing that he does when he gets into office, Lobo, is he amends the Constitution. So it's complete fucking bullshit, right? So in 2013, Honduras amends the Constitution, allowing for these economic autonomous zones. And this is happening. They're not the first country to do it. The other two countries that did it first are China, like I said, they had those autonomous zones, and the United Arab Emirates, which is probably where all the shit that I was talking about earlier, like Dubai and stuff, came from. Or whatever. The other one I was trying to think of. But yeah, they're the third country to fucking do this. This is Honduras, country I don't know about you, I never hear about, never think about, right? So they start working on this fucking autonomous zone thing. And the crazy thing about this is like, go ahead.
It did come up in 2016 a lot, because this was something Clinton basically oversaw as Secretary of State. Is at a minimum they let this coup happen and didn't they continued to recognize it as a legitimate government, even though there was a coup, and she was just never asked about it. This was a pretty naked example of Obama administration sort of it's not as brazen as what Trump is trying to do in Venezuela right now, but very much a look the other way, sort of more low key, subtle Monroe Doctrine.
I see. Okay, so this is like Benghazi adjacent. Like
Yes,
that
it's
time.
I saw it described as like the left's Benghazi.
I
Uh,
gotcha.
yeah, which
It's
is
not
fair.
surprising, and like it must be reiterated at all times. Like any fucking criticism of the Trump administration or the fucking Bush or whatever does not imply that the Democrats, the other party we have here that functions pretty similarly, is going to be like the antithesis to any of this at
Right.
all. They're all
Yeah.
also doing this, and they're just passing the ball back and forth ideologically, right? So, yeah. But anyways, what I was gonna say is like the fucking weird thing about like reading about all this is that like these like right-wing libertarian freaks that are coming up with all this stuff are talking about like autonomous zones so much. And it's like, just think back to like 5 years ago, the fucking Chaz Chop and how against the idea of a socialist autonomous zone these people are, where, the idea being like, hey, we're just going to like have a community garden and like feed each other, right? Supposedly it's hell on earth to these people, but a incredibly laissez-faire, like weird tax loophole zone to them. It's like their version of that, right?
Mhm.
And they can't do it. They can't burn down a part of Seattle or whatever and do it. So they're doing it in, just in far enough away in Latin America. Fuck, libertarians love going to Latin America and just like starting a city. I don't know why. It's just like weird level of entitlement that they have to just like starting Anarchapulco or whatever. So in 2014, as required by the amendment, Juan Orlando Hernandez appointed a group to oversee the ZEEDs. So these new zones are called ZEEDs. They're zones for economic and employment development or something, but it's in Spanish, so the acronym is mixed around. But he appoints a group to oversee these new things called ZEEDs. ZEDE. Early members include a granddaughter of the final Austrian emperor, a band of Republicans from the U.S. that included former Reagan speechwriter Mark Klugman, the anti-tax activist Grover Norquist, the former Reagan aide Faith Whittlesey, the libertarian economist, I don't know, I can't say that, the libertarian economist Mark Skousen, and Ronald Reagan's son, Michael Reagan. They all go to fucking Honduras. And a couple years later, Honduran lawmakers heard about an Arizona entrepreneur named Eric Brimman, who was lobbying Washington to create or to make creative use of the U.S. Constitution's compact clause to pass a bill establishing low regulation, quote unquote, prosperity zones. His fucking version of it, I guess. They all kind of have their own version. So this guy, Eric Brimman, was having a hard time implementing his vision in the States, so he took the Hondurans up on their offer to develop a zone like the one Romer imagined, but run by a private company rather than another nation. So all of these libertarian freaks get together. This is the part of the montage part of the movie where they're like, we need a fucking safe cracker or whatever. Well, who's this weird Arizona guy, Eric Brimman? Let's get him. He knows about zones and shit. And they all get together and they get in Ronald Reagan's son's car and they go down to fucking Honduras and cue, Credence or whatever. So Brimman is a Venezuelan aristocrat. As he was born in Venezuela, but he moved to the U.S. as a child. And in America, he became this hardcore libertarian because he's a fucking Latin American expat from a country, whatever. You know the story. Arizona, by the way, southwest part of this country is the most libertarian part of this country. There's a lot of people like this down there. It's a very like compoundy. Like I know the Pacific Northwest has a lot of like weird Nazis and stuff, but specifically like the Mises people, they love the desert. And Arizona. Go ahead.
That's what Timothy McVeigh would say about, because he was from Buffalo, and he would say the further west he drove, the more quote unquote freedom loving people he met.
Yeah, right. Where'd everybody else go? Used to live out here. No, just freedom loving people. They love cacti and turquoise and shit. I don't know. Good for them, I guess. They're Arizona. I fucking bring this up all the time, but Arizona has this thing. Someone I gotta look this up for the show at some point. This is an anecdote I've been throwing around forever that I don't know the exact details on, but from checking IDs and selling alcohol so much, I noticed that Arizona, like every state license plate has, or driver's license or ID card has like a few years before it expires, maybe like 10 years or something like that, before you have to get another ID. Some libertarian in Arizona was so infuriated by the idea that they had to get fucking like their thing reprinted by the government every 10 years that they successfully passed a law where Arizona IDs, it says on the card, like this card expires in the year like 3025. They're just like within your lifetime you don't have to get another ID because someone out there was like, what do I need an ID to use my toaster or whatever. So anyways, Eric Brimman, right? He's this Venezuelan rich guy. He lives living in the U.S. He's a fucking libertarian freak. He meets another guy like that, another Latin American expat. This guy's from, can't remember off the top of my head, but his name's Gabriel Delgado. And Gabriel Delgado and him sort of get together and they start scheming and they start working on this shit together. He gets looped into the group. They secured early investments from Friedman's Pronomos Capital. That's what I was trying to think of earlier. And an unnamed investor, quote, behind SpaceX, an unnamed investor. Who could it be? I don't know. So
a Porfirio, another Porfirio, maybe the ghost of Porfirio Diaz.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm implying here is I think it's Elon. It's
yeah,
like a guy who's like, I wish to be. Show me in silhouette only. They won't know who I am. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I got the joke.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Anyways, they came up with the name Prospera to get away from sounding like an Ayn Rand utopia, like Liberland, right? That's fucking hack to them because people are kind of wise to this shit now. Everyone hates Ayn Rand. So they decided to lean into the idea that they were like developing places. That's what these charter for-profit cities do, is they develop, right? So it's called Prospera because it's like you're gonna prosper. It's prosperity or whatever, right? Just like a fucking rebrand. So there's this guy. I can't remember his fucking first name. His last name's Colindres, and he's part of the story because he's basically like the mayor of Prospera. Prospera doesn't have a mayor because it doesn't have a proper government, but like he's like his technical title is, you know, whatever, supervisor for yada yada yada. But they, like, when people write about Prospera, they say he's basically the mayor. Like if it had a mayor, this is the guy. This guy Colindres. So he reaches out and they start working on putting this thing in the Roatan Island area, and they wrote a paper about all of this, which is predictably called "Make Honduras Great," right? That same fucking phrase that just like keeps showing up everywhere, all over history, right? This guy Colindres, he all of them are like this. All of them are like the grandchildren of fucking vampires. So his grandfather immigrated to Honduras from Greece after World War I and made a fortune starting grocery stores during what they referred to in this neck of the woods, in this ideology of sorts, as the banana boom.
Banana boom.
Yeah. So if you're interested in learning about this, if you want a primer, I guess, a recap of the whole thing, you should check out our Patreon. We just did a really good bonus episode on the fucking United Fruit Company's overthrow of the Guatemalan government. It's in the devil's chessboard. It's part of this whole banana republic concept and plunder of Latin America. It's a story everyone should know. Plug.
Great Harry Belafonte song, Banana Boom.
Getting the banana boom. Yeah. So yeah, his great grandfather, the way he tells it is, I came here, I prospered in the banana boom, right? He's a fucking European who came down here. Happened to do that. Go figure, right? His grandfather, Colindres' grandfather, says he fought against communists in the Cold War, right? And his uncle was the president of the Honduran Chamber of Commerce, and at one point was taken captive by communist guerrillas. So this guy's whole ideological background is like Cold War shit, and communist guerrillas are evil, and prosperity is fucking great or whatever. Honduras was the first official banana republic. That concept, like the United Fruit Company did that to a bunch of Latin American countries, obviously. Honduras has the claim of like the first usage of the term banana republic. And in 1911, the United Fruit Company straight up just installed a government. Like it's just declassified, sort of understood at this point. But while a lot of Hondurans, like working class Hondurans and I don't know, educated Hondurans, who knows, whatever, a lot of Hondurans who would protest the sort of thing like Prospera, which a lot of people did, see the United Fruit Company's meddling in the Honduran government and stuff like that, and in the economy, correctly as a neoliberal extraction, right? But this guy, he actually likes that they installed a government. He sees it as like a benevolent, sort of intervening in a poor country that needed resources. Okay. So his whole thing is he says like, this is like private sector growth, right? We didn't have roads before the United Fruit Company came, and then they built the roads, and we didn't have all this infrastructure. This is like a fucked up way of looking at this, because it's like, well, they kept you from being able to make it, and it was made by this like, he's like he grew up in a company town. He's like, we owe everything to the company or whatever, little freaky 20th century person, right? So in his eyes, yeah, we owe all these companies for all the infrastructure. Interesting thing about Zeeds is that they are not like, you ever think about this, right? Like how states are shaped and how zones are shaped, right? Like a lot of them are shaped historically because of, I don't know, like wars and stuff like that. And so they're like boundaries. But if you were now with all the power in the world to create like a new thing, you don't necessarily have to make it like a enclosed shape. So Zeeds are allowed to be like checkerboardy, like where there's just like unconnected like parts of it now, over here, this is now in the Zeed or whatever. So it doesn't have to like expand like a blob. They just can continually like sort of annex stuff into the Zeed, into Prospera that isn't connected physically to Prospera. So it's real weird. It also has these like weird city council kind of rules where everyone technically like has a vote, but you get more votes the more land you own. So there are people that are like trying to get in on the ground floor of Prospera and then keep adding stuff in this checkerboard fashion that I'm describing, so that they themselves get more input into what happens in the development of Prospera. Mind you, this maybe is an okay experiment to have if you're in like an empty space. This is all happening in a country that already exists, and all of the land acquisition is in Zeed logic. It's it's like when someone has no choice but to sell, basically, after they've been competed out of the market, you sort of buy up someone's like farm or whatever. And that's why it's super evil. And that's also why there's resistance to it. So let's talk about Prospera a little bit. There's a bunch of crazy shit in Prospera. There is a Montessori school. There's a private security company that operates as the police. There's no like police. So there should be police, but it's like, this is worse, right? This is more like a raw, honest version of the police. They just work for the company, right? There's kind of like the legal system, because of libertarian logic, is sort of like reduced down to this thing called an arbitration center, which is run by 3 retired judges from Arizona, the fucking libertarian desert of America. and they like when you go there, you have to sign like arbitration documents and stuff like that that say, everything that happens to me is under Zed law and not regular law and stuff like that. Okay, this is the good shit. We're getting to the good shit right now. Medical centers, right? So there's a lot of weird medical experiments that happen in Prospera because there aren't like FDA regulations and stuff like that, and like weird, like they've created like an international waters sort of like escape haven from. It sounds like a lot of international law. It's fucking weird.
Damn.
Patry Friedman, the grandson of Milton Friedman we were talking about, he's a regular here. He loves this shit. He's like trying to biohack himself. So, grandson of Milton Friedman, he's a fucking cyborg. He's done a few things to himself thus far that we know about. He had the Tesla chip for his car implanted in his hand. So you know how like you have a key fob to open your stupid Tesla now, and like a lot of cars in general don't have a key anymore. They have that thing.
Yeah, right.
But you're always losing it, right?
You can lose, right? Yeah, I've accidentally locked one of those in a rental car. It was not fun.
Yeah, so just put it in your fucking hand. Just cut open your hand and put it in there, and you could like, pretend like you're Dr. Manhattan or whatever when you open your car. You're just waving your fucking hand. What if you get a different car? Like, do you cut it open again, or can you reprogram it from like Wi-Fi? I had fucking so many implications here. I know a guy who did shit like this. I knew like a cyberpunk dude in New York who was fucking cool. He's a friend of mine, and he had like magnets put in his fingertips, and he could like lift stuff off a table with it and shit. And
Whoa,
he had like lights in his skin and stuff. We were into body modification, fucking cool. It's great, but I don't know. This is so lame. Like, what? To cut out the step of opening your car by like 1 microsecond, fucking whatever.
I always wanted to get a body mod where every time I fart, my eyes vibrate.
Why?
They should do that. It's cartoony, be fun.
That'd be cool to get cartoony body mods, like you could bug out your eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You know what? This guy's onto something. He apparently came here to develop a special bacteria-filled toothpaste, and I don't have any more information on this one, but apparently it's something that he believes.
Isn't that wait? Isn't there already bacteria in toothpaste and in everything? Like, what kind of bacteria?
I don't know, man. I think it's like, have you ever met somebody who is like, I haven't washed my hair in a year, and look how clean it is. It self-cleans because we have a biome or whatever, and their hair is like disgusting. I think it's that type of shit. He's read the back of a Dr. Bronner's bottle too hard or something. I don't know. We're gonna have to put a pin in that one and look it up. Jamie, look that up. Discord, get on it. He also injected himself with like this protein pack. Just the way he explains it is to make him stronger and faster. And apparently it's some shit he couldn't do in America. So I don't know. Good luck to him, I guess. So there's all these like crazy nightmare futuristic companies doing medical experiments down here. There's a company called Mini Circle that claims it's able to like stop Alzheimer's and suppress all tumors, which cool if they can. How are they doing it though? That they need to do it in like a fucking overseas tax loophole. I don't know, man. There's something called Symbiont Labs, which specializes in implants that they claim turn people into self-sovereign cyborgs. Not just any cyborg. Fucking you don't tread on me, ass cyborgs. It's their language. It's insane. There's stem cell research going on down here. Their author of one of these pieces that I was reading for research to this said that they were on a plane next to someone who had like a burn on his arm. He's like, going down there to get stem cells. Cool. Something called semi-glutide injections, which I've been meaning to look up. Actually, I forgot to do that, so I'm gonna come back to that. I don't know what the fuck a semi-glutide injection is. And then there's this company called Vitalia that has this like dome, and like under the Vitalia dome, they have all sorts of meetings, and they yeah, like weird, like investment, um, like conferences and stuff like that. And like one of the journalists that I was reading that did a thing about this in like the New York Times said like they couldn't get in, right? And they saw like the reason.com journalist over there and they're like, oh, I can't get in, but they let him in. I don't know. So there is only one residential building as of one of the articles I read, which is a couple years old. So there's no one that lives there. And I guess there's people that live there and they just like live in their like startup buildings or whatever. There's only one residential building, but they say they're like planning a fucking what do you call it, like a condominium building or something, and eventually they aim at having 38,000 residents, which for a city is not very many people. It's kind of a small town. There's also a Bitcoin cafe that was a regular restaurant that this libertarian woman, which apparently they exist, she came down and she took over this restaurant and she renamed it the Amity Age Academy and calls it a Bitcoin cafe, and she has like tons of Bitcoin shit on display and has like a Bitcoin ATM and stuff like that.
Amity. So is it there for if you're feeling moody and want to rock out an Elliott Smith song?
I was thinking Amityville Horror, but that makes more sense.
Amity, Amity, Amity. It's a very libertarian coded song, come to think of it.
You think?
That's what I'm going with. I'll justify it in a second. I'm going to look up the lyrics.
There's actual libertarian music like Rush, but probably not Elliott Smith. Yeah. Yeah, Rush is like all like, I will choose free will. It's all based on like Ayn Rand and shit. It sucks. I bummed a lot of people out with that information because apparently if you just listen to it, it's not quite in the forefront of the music. But then as soon as you learn that, you like hear it. Everything's based on like an Ayn Rand novel in Rush. Anyways, the Amity Age Cafe on display here. There are books by Ayn Rand, her book on capitalism, Ludwig von Mises, and Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. A woman reads this shit, mind you. And there's a big painting of Guy Fawkes on a green horse. Okay, semaglutide is a prescription medication administered via a once weekly subcutaneous under the skin injection. It is a glucagon-like peptide receptor agonist used to treat type 2 diabetes. Oh, wait a minute. This is fucking Ozempic. Oh, this must have been before Ozempic was like FDA approved. As people were going down there to get it. That makes fucking sense. Okay. So let's talk about the surrounding area a little bit around this thing, because this is like the way that they come in and they like sell this to the neighbors of this area that they just colonized on the Roatan Island is like images of like big skyscrapers and stuff like that. Mind you, there's nothing around. It's like a rural area. Roatan, the island they're on, is a former British colony, which I didn't realize that happened. Their next door neighbor is this little village, this little fishing village called Crawfish Rock that's populated mostly by English-speaking black people because of, I guess, the former British colony, and I don't know. There's probably a lot of interesting explanations for why that happened. And they say that when Prospera first arrived, they offered business loans to the people of Crawfish Rock, right? And people didn't really take them up on it. Can't imagine why, right? And so this is kind of interesting, right? Prospera, like, it tries to sell itself as if it's just like this benevolent thing that's just like raising the GDP or whatever, fucking unemployment or whatever, how the fuck they want to couch it in economic language. But it's like, it still uses like airports and roads and infrastructure from surrounding Honduras. It doesn't really pay for them, but it wants all the benefits of being like a sovereign nation. And it's kind of all about, not having to do stuff like that, right? So people don't like Prospera in Honduras. It's mostly just these weird, freaky, vampiric, like, North Europeans and Americans coming in to extract and trying to sell like everyone like we're bringing fortune and whatever. So Zed law sort of provides incentives for charter cities to buy up the surrounding land, like I was talking about earlier. And they deny this, though. They claim we would never do that because buying up someone's land like parasitically like that violates the sanctity of private property, which is the thing that they respect the most, right? But obviously, capitalist enterprises, like that's what they do. They're big octopuses and they absorb everything. Crawfish Rock, that fishing town. So it has this thing called a patronato, which is a community board. And the Crawfish Rock Patronato says that they just say Prospera lied. They said they never mentioned Zed law when they brought in this town. They say Prospera came in and basically told them, oh, we're starting like a resort, just like a nice place. And this is the thing that happens all over Latin America. So they're like not thrilled, but they're like, okay, whatever. It's going to be another, place for people to go on vacation or whatever. Never mentioned the Zed law. And they also said that the Prospera people tried to set up their own patronato, like in Crawfish Rock, to just like oust the original patronato, which is, mind you, a fishing village's community board. But whatever. They love overthrowing things, so I'm sure that they took a crack at it. In 2020, Eric Brimman. So as they're sort of like launching all this stuff, COVID happens, right? And it slows things up a little bit, and they're still developing, and they're trying to get the fucking stem cell guy to come in, or the whoever to start the Bitcoin, post office or whatever. And Brimman held this conference, and he's trying to like settle anxieties in Crawfish Rock. So he has it outside, and because of social distancing and stuff like that. And he tries to explain Zed law to the Crawfish Rock people, and they just start throwing shit at him, like folding chairs and stuff. He starts getting booed, and it just goes fucking down. And he's like, no, I assure you, I bring you prosperity and stuff. And like, fuck you. And somebody like throws his laptop, his MacBook across the room, and the whole thing gets caught on someone's smartphone. And he's yelling like, you're violating my social distancing or whatever, when people are like rushing him to like beat him up because they know what the fuck he's doing, right? So this goes viral, right? And all of a sudden, this is a national issue in Honduras. This isn't some rural part of Honduras. Nobody knew what was happening. It was kind of a secret. I didn't fucking know about this until recently. I'm obsessed with shit like this. So this is how it breaks containment. I think it's really interesting. The video goes viral, and then in 2021, as people start to get back outside and stuff, it starts to form into a national anti-Zed protest because people start to become aware of the amendments to the Constitution and stuff like that. And there's a backlash to the far right wing. And this guy, Orlando Hernandez, who made all this shit happen, who's like, at this point, a very corrupt president, by the way. He's a president. He succeeded Porfirio Lobo as president, and he's like the most corrupt president in modern history, and it's like very clearly just doing all this horrible shit, right? So enter the wife of the previous leftist president, Zelaya. His wife's name is Xiomara Castro. She's a politician. She's in the far left party, Libre, and she decides to fucking run for president. And she runs on the anti-Zed stuff that now everyone's aware of. And in 2021, she fucking wins the presidency, right? And she immediately starts rolling back all the special privileges that have been carved out for Prospera. But a lot of the rollback gets caught in limbo because they amended the fucking Constitution, and like it gets complicated, and can you amend to undo the amendments? Well, what's really fucking weird about this is that a lot of this stuff, it's not even contained within the state law of Honduras at this point. It's contained within like international trade law and stuff like that. And there are some things in place that keep that sort of shit kind of premium over fucking some country called Honduras's constitution, right? So like the deal, the legal like language of the deals that were struck with all the companies that invest in Prospera states that that they're guaranteed to like 50 years of stability, even if the Z doesn't exist anymore, which is a crazy fucking thing. And I don't know who the hell it's upheld by, because it's like international, trade law or whatever. But she's trying to shut down the Z, and it's like, I don't know, like they kind of like, how do you enforce this? And there's these big, massive companies that they rule the world. You will atone, right? You kind of can't say, hey, I'm a country, fuck you, get out of here, if they've already signed a deal to extract all the fucking whatever from your minerals or whatever, resources or whatever, all the crazy things they're doing here. So it's a really interesting situation that Xiomara Castro gets in, where she's like, she did it, she pulled it off, she won the presidency, but she's trying to get these fucking people out of here, and they kind of can't get rid of them. And it's funny because like during all this, now the far right's on the back foot. That guy Gabriel Delgado I talked about earlier, he talked a lot during this time, and he said that he was really disappointed because he all thought things would play out in a more positive way, because as he got into all this, he relied on his favorite philosopher, Machiavelli, right? He's like, I read all this Machiavelli, and he said we should do stuff like this, and like, why isn't it working, right? But he's apparently the justification for that was that like Machiavelli says, like, if you get into a situation, you shouldn't start trying to like solve problems using only the resources within the situation. You start pulling from like outside if you're in like a place that doesn't have a lot of people like network with or whatever. So that to him that translated to like, yeah, we should have these benevolent host countries and fucking corporations and stuff like that. Anyways, that was a funny detail. Anyways, we're almost done. So Prospera, interestingly, successfully at this point sued the nation of Honduras in this thing called the International Center for Settlement and Investment Disputes. What the fuck is that? I haven't heard of this. The International Center for Settlement and Investment Disputes is like an organization under the umbrella of like the World Bank. And basically what it does is it serves as like a court for corporations to sue countries because of stuff like this.
Oh, yeah. The WTO used to do a lot of that stuff, but now they kind of taking a backseat.
Yeah. So I was looking into this, and it's like the history is crazy because the ICSID, the International Center for Settlement and Investment Disputes, exists so a company can sue a country. A country cannot sue a company. It only works in one direction in this court.
Oh my God. So
you can't, as Honduras, sue Prospera, but Prospera can sue you. And like historically, the ICSID is like the type of things that it's been used as a conduit for are like, for example, Philip Morris sued Uruguay because like of the Uruguay was doing the thing where they put like a fucking like an emphysemic like lung on a cigarette box or whatever, or like just mandating that cigarettes have like normal packaging and not like a fucking cartoon bumblebee or whatever on the cover. And they just straight up sued Uruguay. And a mining company sued like Indonesia and stuff like that to reinforce the extractive nature of their investments in another country. That's the only thing this exists for. It's completely fucked up, right? So Prospera fucking sues Honduras in the ICSID, and they win. And Honduras, after this, decides to withdraw from the ICSID, which makes sense. Because obviously it's not working to their benefit at all, which apparently it's a thing that you actively participate in or don't. I don't know. Much more to learn. Anyways. You might be asking yourself, why the fuck are we talking about this? Why are we talking about Honduras? It's all very interesting, but what has it got to do with me, the listener, right? Well, check this out. Juan Orlando Hernandez, the president that succeeded Porfirio Lobo, the super corrupt one that I was talking about earlier, he's been in U.S. federal prison like the last few years. This whole time he became president in 2013, and then he got beat by Xiomara Castro, right?
Right.
So while he was president, he was really, really corrupt. So she's like a Lula, kind of like when she got into office, you know, she fucking ousted this like horrible, corrupt, far right person, and he got indicted for a lot of fucked up deals, mostly drug trafficking. Though he said he personally oversaw the shipment of like 400 tons of cocaine through Venezuela, or through fucking Honduras into the United States during his presidency. Now, what's interesting about this is that a week ago, December 1st, 2025, Donald Trump pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez.
Ah.
Yeah, right? While simultaneously rolling out this war against Venezuela on the grounds that Maduro's a narco-terrorist, that he works with the cartels, that he's corrupt, and that he's personally overseeing the trafficking of fentanyl and drugs into the United States. This is happening the same fucking week, and no one noticed. Like, it's barely a blip in the fucking news, and it's like so profoundly hypocritical. It tells you, what's the lesson here? There's a lot of lessons, but the big one is the fucking thing with Venezuela is not over drugs at all, and this relationship that the United States government has on behalf of these like multinational corporations and stuff like that, the relationship that it has with cartels is completely backwards than what they say. They're trying to use this cartel thing as like this fucking specter and this thing to scare Americans with, to manufacture consent so they can overthrow all these fucking countries. Yeah. Meanwhile, they actively support every single thing that keeps the cartels in power and actively oppose like these like Castros and stuff like that. These people that keep that sort of stuff out of power. It's fucking crazy, right? So that was literally a week ago that he did this. As soon as they pardoned him, Xiomara Castro issued an arrest warrant for him, but he's in the United States. He's in U.S. federal prison with like the fucking Unabomber and shit. I mean, he's out now, but that's where he was. So he's just like on the lam. Like nobody knows where he is for the time being. She's about to be gone. So this is one of the last things she did in office, because Honduras's presidential elections happened this week. Also, that's why Trump came in and did this at the last minute, I think, although it doesn't really make sense. Maybe he didn't think he was going to win, or his guy was going to win, because they're still counting the votes right now, but it appears that the far right candidate who is handpicked and backed by Trump won the election. If you believe the results of the fucking election, like it might have happened, it might not. They might have caused it to happen. They might have faked it. I don't know. But the new president of Honduras is likely going to be this guy named Nasri Asfura, who is someone else to fucking keep an eye on through all of this. Anyways, that's it. That's why this happened. Prospera is the first one of these cities. This is stuff I'm going to probably look into more, because apparently it was like the flagship. And then even though Castro came in and fucking beat it back, there have been a bunch more modeled after this, like all over the globe. So look out. Could be coming to your town. All right. That's it. That's it. That's my fucking big podcast I was excited about. Isn't that fucking weird? Isn't that fucked up?
Yeah.
Isn't that a great thing to yell at somebody about? You like this Trump guy? You think he's anti-drugs? He loves drugs. He let a guy out of jail for for bringing in 400 tons of cocaine. And look, can you blame him? It's a lot of cocaine.
Indeed it is. The Prospera Tea Gospel, if you will.
Nailed it, young Anders. That was Anders as a baby saying that.
The Prospera, that's how I talked as a baby.
All right. Listen, I have a show in 2 hours, so I can't plug that. I don't know. If you like our show, sign up for the Patreon. We'll keep playing the hits, bringing you stories like this, and you can hang out on our Discord and plan a one-piece overthrow of the podcast or whatever in there, whatever you kids do on Discord. And in general, just thank you for listening, and come see a show. I'll be doing shit all over LA soon. I'm sure Andrew's got anything to plug.
At Andersley here on social media. And if you are in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the surrounding environs, please come out to White Elephant, which is going to be making its triumphant return this December 26th at Bryant Lake Bowl in Minneapolis, 7 p.m. I'm co-hosting it with my old buddy Joe Cocazello, we're going to be having a lot of comics from Minnesota, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We do this every year. It's a blast. So don't miss it if you are in MN.
If you're in MN. All right. Well, it's prospered.